Greetings, veterans and friends. Welcome to part 2 of the 2023 Veterans of Foreign Wars Department of Pennsylvania State Convention. We've got a really great lineup for you this episode. Lots of folks stopped by our booth to have an interview and some really great discussions. I think you're going to like this lineup. So, without further ado, let's get right to the episode. Veterans and friends, our next guest here on Pennsylvania Veterans Forward, the current legislative chairman, Jim Brown, who personal friend of mine, all-around good guy, beer drinker, hero, philosopher, hero of the oppressed. All-around good guy. He's here, and it's an honor to have him. I had him. It's been a while, Jim, since we did an update on the legislative side. But welcome to the convention. It's good to see you.
Thanks, brother. Good to be here.
Good to be here. So, man, you had a busy year, right? You had the PAC Act at last year, and that turned into a whole bunch of legislation, right? Additional legislations that spun off, and man, just chomping at the bit to hear what you've been up to.
Well, like you said, I mean, the PAC Act, it's still, out there. We really want our veterans to reach out to accredited veteran service officers. There's many of them out there. The state of Pennsylvania, VFW has 33 VFW accredited service officers. And utilizing that PACT Act will help our veterans get, their claims processed quicker, and it'll allow them to get the services and everything that they're entitled to. However, there's always a bad with a good, and what the VFW calls claim sharks are out there. They're different agencies, some law firms and things like that. I say they're stealing from the veteran. That's my point of view. They overcharge our veterans. They even sometimes they know they're not going to get the claim, but they file it anyways just to get the people's money. Since we were just down in Washington on the Hill in March, the beginning of March of this year, and we were talking to the Congress and the Senate about this, and now there's two bills in the process to crack down on these claim sharks. The House bill is H.R. 1139, and the Senate bill is S. 740. And what they would do is, let me backtrack a second. Our accredited service officers get accredited through the VA healthcare system. So, and with the VFW service officers, they get a lot of specialized training throughout the year. They go and get trained here, there, so that they're always up to date on things. And what's happening with these claim sharks, they're not accredited. They don't fall under the same penalties that our accredited ones do. Our accredited service officers can be monetarily fined or imprisoned. These other people just steal our veterans' money and move on to the next veteran because they think they're going to get their claim processed faster.
That's it. That's important. So, Jim, we hear the listeners. We have both veteran and non-veteran listeners. But even for the veteran listeners that we have, when it comes to claims, some veterans, maybe they paid attention during the transition, right, on their transition out of the military. Maybe others just wanted to get out and said, hey, they don't pay attention. Something develops. Then they realize I need care from the VA, or I feel that I'm entitled to compensation. Somebody tells them their compensation. When they say accreditation and they say, this lawyer said it helped me, but when I asked him or her if they were accredited, they said no. And then you hear from the VFW, please, if you don't use the VFW service officers, use any service officer from any organization that's accredited. What does that accreditation mean, and what advantage does it give the veteran?
What the accreditation means is basically what I already said, as far as it holds us accountable. Our accredited service officers, whether it be the VFWs or some other VSO, they again are held accountable if they do the veteran wrong, if they process their claims improperly. We're all human, so things do happen, obviously. But what would happen right now is those other agencies, nothing happens to them. Like I said, they just move on to the next veteran and take their money.
Yeah.
And not to mention, they also will come back later if you're getting an increase, and they're going to want more. They're put their hand in your pocket again to get a percentage of your new percentage that you as a veteran earned. And I want to emphasize that you veterans out there that have not gone to a claims service officer and got a claim processed, don't let your pride get in the way. Go out there, see an accredited service officer, get your claim put in. So that's utmost importance.
Yeah, and that really is important, because you're right. The attorneys, some of the agreements we've heard from veterans that you and I have encountered, the attorneys they've signed an agreement where the attorneys get their cut every month, and that's taking away from the veterans' right and entitlements. The attorneys didn't serve; the veterans did.
Correct, and also they can, if you are already compensated, there's a possibility you could lose your compensation. For
Really, they'll
certain
actually
items
take
because
that away.
you're now using an outside source, and you're no longer affiliated with the VA, because the VA is the one doing the accreditation.
Right.
So they can. I haven't personally seen it yet, but they can take that from you potentially,
That's
and possibly pay back what you've already gotten.
Yeah, and for those, especially for the PAC Act, so those Camp Lejeune claimants, those folks who were at Camp Lejeune that have Camp Lejeune claims, we urge you, if it's not the VFW service officers, and of course I think we're a little biased, Jim, right?
Yeah.
We have service officers that I think the best in the business. If you don't use a service officer through the Veterans of Foreign Wars, there are other VSO organizations that you can engage a veteran service officer through. But I think, without a doubt, I think ours are the best in the business.
Yeah, and like I said, we have 33 in Pennsylvania accredited through the
How
the
does that
VFW.
compare? How does that compare to other states that you hear? So other states that may have, I think in the state of Florida, there's less than a handful.
Correct.
cover
I
that.
mean, by a long shot, we have the most. I think the majority of states have anywhere from 1 to maybe 5, and I mean, us here in the, not that, I mean, all the VFWs and all the states are doing their job and they're doing what they need to do. But I think we just got our foot a little bit farther forward and are really pushing to help the veterans here in Pennsylvania.
And that Act 66 money is help. And we
Yes.
heard Bob Eiler, the chairman of the Finance Committee, say, you know what? If that money ever went away, we've prepared ourselves to keep that service going for the veterans and that benefit going beyond any Act 66 money that the federal government provides to us.
Correct. And if you're not, when we pass legislation, when we get it passed, and you're not going out there and filing those claims, these legislators are going to be like, why are we passing these bills then? If these veterans aren't going to take advantage of it, we're going to take it out of the budget every year, and we're not going to deal with it. So when we get these laws passed, we need the veterans to put their claims in so that the legislators on the Hill know that they really need what we're fighting for.
Yeah, indeed. Great segue into a question that I get all the time, and veterans would say, veterans that have, combat veterans, 2, 3, even younger, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, would say, I don't want to use it because it'll take away from somebody else who really needs it.
Yeah. We all need it. We all earned it. I get it. People look at me all the time. Oh, you get that free money. I look at them with a few choice words and a smirk on my face. And I said, that's not free money. I earned that. My
Yeah.
brothers and my sisters, we earned that. So if you have not put a claim in and you're eligible for something, get your backside out to a VSO and put your claim in. You earned it. Tuck your pride aside and get the care you deserve that you've earned.
Amen. Amen. You earned it. The government promised, and it's time now to hold the government accountable. You're absolutely
definitely.
right. This is and by all rights, it's not a privilege. It's an entitlement that you earned. I don't usually use that term, but it is an entitlement.
We earned that entitlement.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. So what else is going on Capitol Hill? I'm excited. I mean, I know you had a great trip. You came back and your cohort, Rich Cassie, still with you, right? Still at the.
Rich is a champ, man. He he keeps me in line. He does very well. Sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do. He's so passionate. I'm fortunate to have him with me. I know that if I'm not there, he takes the reins and just rolls. And it's hard to say, you know, someday I will have to step down. And he's definitely would be the right person to take the reins and keep moving forward in my eyes. I know there's several other people out there that would be great at it as well. Hopefully they get the opportunity. This is probably the most honorable, other than my active service itself, would be one of the most honorable things I've ever done in my life. Knowing that I'm making an impact on our veterans.
Yeah, for sure.
And the big thing is, it's just not for the veterans. A lot of things we do, a lot of bills we pass are for the family members as well. So we need to make sure we're taking care of our family members as well as the veterans, because we all know they take care of us.
Absolutely, and that right coincides with our 123-year mission of taking care of veterans, their families, widows, and orphans. It's that couldn't be true. So that you're right. The legislation and what the organization was founded on is not just solely for the veteran, but what I like to call the whole veteran, which extends to the families and all of the and all the folks that are part of that veteran experience, right?
Correct.
So it's okay to switch topics on you.
Roll. Go with it.
I know
Go
that
for it.
I know that it last time we met at the 2022 State Convention around this time last year, it said, you know what, at some point, because of the conviction and the service and the passion you feel for doing what you're doing now, especially in the legislative role, you said, someday you might be interested in the leadership, becoming a leadership, because you have a vision, you see a vision of the organization, you believe that you could provide that leadership, right, and that mentorship. So we understand that you may have a big announcement coming tomorrow.
Well, yeah. I mean, most people kind of already know. Cat's been out of the bag for a little bit, but a few years ago, I was asked when I was going to run for state commandership, work my way up through, and I gave a 5-year timeline because my son was in school. I said, it's not going to happen until my son graduates. Family comes first. And the VFW is my family as well. But I had to make sure my son, he's fine academically, but I had to make sure he made it through high school and made it into college first. So yeah, 2024, 25, I'll be running for state junior vice commander.
That's wonderful. Have you, typically, and I'm sure you've already thought about this, there are a set of principles or imperatives that you have that you're going to, a platform almost, that you're going to run on and things like that. Do you have that already solidified? Like, what are your three key values, right, that all commanders have?
Well, I do have them. I guess I can let you know what they are. Now, my slogan for my upcoming when I get in will be ignite, unite, and push forward.
Those are unique because you hear a lot of times like mentorship, leadership, things like that. So, what are those again?
Ignite, unite, and push forward.
Ignite, unite, and push forward. Wow, that's I know you're an Air Force guy, so you're really leveraging those ASFAB skills. Jim was in the Air Force, ladies and gentlemen, so we tease each other. I say, you're in the Air Force, he says, please don't hate me because of my ASFAB score. So, well, that's fantastic. What so as you think in the context of those three key values, what are the top three priorities for your year as commander to make the best impact you possibly can?
I mean, if I'm going off just those three items, my slogan as far as the ignite aspect, I'm looking for our veterans and those of our support system, the auxiliary as well. I'm looking for us all to gain that passion, relight that fire, ignite yourself. And we all had a passion and that deep down burning inside of us when we were veterans, especially as combat veterans. So I want that flame to be reignited and get back out there and, you know, and let it burn. Let us be seen. You know, let that fire grow big.
Yeah, and you do that through engaging new members. I'm always a big, not only bringing in new members, but bringing those veterans back that already part of our organization that may have left for one reason or another or not engaged, right? I can see that igniting, let the fire come from within, right?
Yes.
We already have a really big base of members, and bring those members back in,
Yep.
re-engage those members as well as finding new members as well.
Yeah. Which kind of slides right into my unite is we have a lot of veterans, many older, many younger, many from many different eras, genders, backgrounds, and we need to push all that aside. We need to unite as one, under one front, under the VFW, and unite, come together, and use the knowledge that has been there before us, listen to the knowledge that's coming up after us, merge that and unite, and it'll overall will make us a better VFW.
That's fantastic. And now you've got me hooked, because now I want to hear the finale, push forward.
All right. So my push forward is, like I said, I was in the Air Force. I was in Red Horse, which is a combat engineering unit. And one of my main pieces of equipment that I spent most of my stick time on was a D10 bulldozer. So my push forward is you take that dozer and you plow everything the hell out of your way. Excuse my language.
No, that's okay.
And,
I remember you saying rat's ass on the
Yeah,
last time. Yeah.
Amy, sorry, Amy. Amy McKenzie, I'm sorry. So I want to push forward with that mindset of the unity and the fire and passion, push forward into the future while not forgetting about the past, what has come before us. Like I said, the knowledge, the mentorship, those that have just been there. I hate to use the phrase "been there, done that," but they have. They've been there. They've done that. They've learned what the VFW is. They're teaching us what the VFW is. We need to sit back and listen to them, and we need to keep that base so that we continue to learn, so that when it's our turn to teach and mentor, which it's always our turn to teach and mentor. There's always a new person coming in the VFW. You should always teach and mentor that person coming in. But we need to make sure we do not neglect and forget those that come before us. But on the other hand, we have to respect the ones that are coming in, and I'm a huge advocate for our sisters. They kind of get brushed aside often.
Indeed.
And
we're going to have Amy
sad.
McKenzie on the show right after you.
It's sad. We need to reach out to these sisters of ours. And usually when I talk and do speeches and stuff, I always say sisters and brothers, because I want to make sure they know that I care and that I want them to be recognized. So we need to push forward like that.
She served too, right? And which
Most
we'll hear from Amy McKenzie. She's coming on the show next as well. Jim, that's a fantastic, and I think. So is this the first time you've revealed those slogans?
Yeah, you squeezed it out. Great.
And you heard it first here, ladies and gentlemen. Pennsylvania
Yes.
Veterans Forward cracked the code with Jim Brown. That's fantastic. Well, Jim, in full transparency, Jim and I have worked close together on the membership team as I was on the membership team, leading the membership team, and he co-leading the legislative team. They coincide, and our reports are always together.
A lot of our things coincide, and people don't realize that the membership, the legislation, the VSOs. I mean, the Patriot Pens, all this is community services. It all binds together into one. I'm going to say it. It unites into one thing, and it all works together when you allow it to work together.
Indeed. Well said, my friend. Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Brown, current state legislative chairman, as well as soon to be announcing his candidacy for the state junior vice commander office here in the Department of Pennsylvania. I may be a little biased, but my friend, I think you're going to do wonderful in whatever you set your mind
Appreciate
to.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll set myself up with good people underneath me because that's where it matters.
That's true. That's you're only as good as the people, and it's a team effort. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Brown, brother, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me again.
Appreciate you being here, and we'll be up with our next guest here just after our next sponsor. Our next guest here on Pennsylvania Veterans Forward, somebody I've been wanting to interview for quite some time. I think he's one of the most important people in the state of Pennsylvania, especially in the Veterans of Foreign Wars in the state of Pennsylvania. I'd like to introduce Mr. Jonathan Hart from the Department of Pennsylvania Veterans of Foreign Wars. Mr. Hart, it is great to have you here, sir.
Likewise. Glad to be here.
It is awesome. So, Mr. Hart is behind, Jonathan, as we call him. Many of us call him Mr. Hart. He is a VFW service officer. He's going to tell you a little bit about what that is. Some of our listeners are veterans and non-veterans, but especially for those veterans that are listening, the importance of what a service officer is and what a service officer can do for you to get you, especially claims of assistance, benefits, and entitlements. And I do say entitlements because they've earned those entitlements, haven't they, Mr. Hart?
That's correct.
Absolutely. So great to have you here. And as custom on the show, we ask our guests to give us a little bit about who they are, their military service, and their qualifying in the VFW, and talk a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, once again, you already told him my name's Jonathan Hart. I'm born and raised in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I joined the Army in 1974 and retired in 2006 after my last tour of duty in Mosul, Iraq.
So you had the same crappy travel agent I did.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I retired Master Sergeant. I am a 100% disabled veteran. And I've been, like I said, Mosul, Iraq, and Honduras, and North, South, East, and West, Desert Storm. Yeah.
You've been around. You've been around, and that's that's fantastic. What was your MOS in the Army?
My MOS in the Army was food service.
Food service.
But let's just remember, when you go to war, you might want to forget about that MOS, because when we was in Mosul, they had KBR doing all the contract work in country.
Oh, sure.
And so therefore, we pulled guard duty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. You're right. The MOS is just generally a suggestion, right? You're a soldier. You're a soldier first.
Yes,
so I
sir.
appreciate
Always
that.
a soldier first.
Awesome. Well, you've been since I've known you. You're a service officer, a Veterans of Foreign War service officers, and you've done incredible work. He's and I can vouch for that. He's helped me with a claim for compensation with the VA. But Mr. Hart, really, let's explain, especially for those veterans that are watching today, what is a service officer and why is a service officer important for veterans and what they can do as far as compensation?
That's a very viable question right there, because a service officer does what lawyers do for free. Lawyers may charge anywhere from you can't quote me, but it's been said 33 to 60%.
Sure.
Service officers, as like myself with the VFW, we do the same thing for free. We support the veterans, number one. Number two, we are certified, as I'm saying, so we're trained. We go to school, we have to qualify, we have to take tests, and then we're always learning because it's always changing. The benefits always change, as you're aware of the PAC Act being spread out across the world, and it's changing for the approved presumptives that just came about before where they weren't. There's always changing, and we're always learning. The biggest benefits for working with a certified officer, accredited officer, is the fact that knowledge is power. I did my own before I became certified, and now what I know, I would recommend having a certified officer.
Yeah, never trying to go at it on your own, right?
Because some of the simple reasons why is not that you're not smart enough, because you maybe are, but you might not know all of the ins and outs. You may miss something. You may miss something that is you're qualified to have and belongs to you, but you didn't fill it out right. You may put it on the wrong forms. The VA has a bad rep for not taking care of their veterans, but what I've learned is if you give the VA what they're looking for, they give you your just due. And basically, they ask you and tell you what it takes for the disabilities, and therefore, I think the VA does a very good job, and you just have to know what is supposed to be done and how to do it properly, where sometimes, we think we got it, but we don't do it in the way that it's supposed to be done, because everything's done by the law. It's not like they're shooting from the hip and making decisions on their own. You get this and you don't get that. That's a myth. They do have rules and regulations that they have to follow. And so if you know them and you fit within those rules and regulations, then 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to give you your just due compensation.
That's important. And Mr. Hart, you and I have done recruiting together at various events. You're instrumental in providing, counsel to veterans who come in and say, I don't know how to file for this. I don't know what I'm doing. What would you say to veterans too? We had a fair number of veterans together that we spoke with together at the different events. What would you say to a veteran that says, you know what, I'm not going to file a claim because there are people that are worse off than me and who really need it, and I don't need it. I have commercial health insurance. I have this and that. I don't want to take away from the people that really deserve it. What's your response to that?
That is basically what we would call a stellar attitude, because you have a lot of veterans that feel that they're helping somebody else in saying that, well, somebody else better deserves it than I do. But that's a myth, because just because I don't file doesn't mean it's going to help you get a claim. And so they need to understand that, because the way it's cut is if it's there for you, the funds are there for each and every one of us. So therefore, not filing does not mean you're helping another veteran. In fact, you may not be helping them. You may be harming them because of the representation of numbers when they go through to Congress or whoever is doing these changes of the qualifications and disabilities or whatever. The bigger, the better. So it's a myth that if I don't file, it's because I don't file and therefore I'm looking out for somebody else. If you're not filing, you're not receiving, you might as well go ahead and file.
Absolutely. And these are benefits that you've earned. They're entitlements. I don't use that usually use that word, but these really are an entitlements, because you made a contract with the government, and the government made a contract with you that said they would take care of you.
Very well said.
And if they've caused harm, they have an obligation to take care of you.
Very well said. And their obligation is to each and every one of us. So it's not like if you don't get yours, it's helping somebody else.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know you've been at this. You have a passion for the work that you do. Full transparency, Mr. Hart helped me with my claim, and I can tell you from personal experience, from the time that we sat down to the claim to the time that my claim was adjudicated and I received my rating, Mr. Hart was with me every step of the way. So if you are a veteran, and it doesn't matter where they are, right, Mr.
No,
Hart,
sir,
you can help anybody.
I can help you. Absolutely. I can help you because I'm state certified. I can help you wherever you're at. All you have to do is just reach out and, like you said, my counterparts, we all try to do the best we can. Some of us want to go above and beyond, and I'd like to think that I'm one of those people, but it's because I like what I do and I enjoy giving back. I've helped people in California. We're here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
Illinois,
Maryland, Illinois.
Right.
I mean, if there's a way, we can make it work, because I work for the VFW, and every day's Veterans Day here.
And you hear that a couple of other guests said that every day is Veterans Day. Mr. Hart means what he says, and I can tell you he's a hardworking. He has a passion and a conviction for this work. We really appreciate all you do here, Mr. Hart. Can't thank you enough for your service and for all that you do. And thanks for being a guest here on Pennsylvania Veterans Forward. Jonathan Hart, ladies and gentlemen, will put his contact, is that okay, Mr. Hart,
Yes,
in the
sir.
show notes. You'll be
Yes,
able to
sir.
reach out to him. Doesn't matter where you, I know that many of you are listening from out of state. Doesn't matter where you are. If you are a veteran, don't even have to be a combat veteran.
That's
it's any
correct.
veteran.
If you might want to be looking out for a loved one, a friend. You got some questions. If I can't give you the answer, I'll find it for you.
Fantastic. Jonathan Hart, ladies and gentlemen, Department of Pennsylvania Service Officer, Iraq veteran, all-around good guy, and I think that's a lot of the NCO in him that loves to take care of troops, drives what he does. Thank you, and we'll be back after a brief sponsor message. Our next guest on Pennsylvania Veterans Forward, we have Mr. Bill Rowland, who is from District 29 out in Allegheny County in Pittsburgh. And Bill, it's an honor to have you on the show. Welcome.
Great to be here, John.
It is really great to have you. We've been waiting to interview Bill for quite some time and catch up with him. So as custom on the show, Bill, we always start out with asking the guests to give us a little bit of background of who you are, kind of where you grew up, what your military service is, qualifier into the VFW, and of course then the absolute wonderful things that you've done here in the VFW.
Well, I grew up in North Braddock, Pennsylvania. I joined the military when I was actually a senior in high school. I joined the Navy. I went to boot camp over Christmas break. I spent 9 years in the Navy and 17 in the Army, ending as the XO of the 339th Combat Support Hospital. I was eligible for the VFW through my mobilization to Kosovo in 2006.
Yep. A lot of people forget that Kosovo was a huge operation and involved, a significant amount of people, and it went on for quite some time, right? And there was a large mobilization there, a key interest, right? A key interest over there for the United States. Well, it is great to have you on. I really appreciate you being here. I know you've done wonderful things and a ton of things in the VFW. You were the state surgeon, right? The state surgeon, as well as the chairman of the Veterans Court mentor. You were the Veterans Court mentor. Jess King was on just in the show earlier, and she talked about her the importance of the Veterans Court mentor program.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you did as surgeon, because I thought that was fascinating. Because you took the surgeon. You kind of defined what the surgeon now does, which I'm really fascinated on, because instead of it being just almost a title, you actually made it into a really impactful role that you fulfilled.
Yeah, if you look in the manual, I think it's like 3 sentences long. But the surgeon is an important part of every post and district. Thanks to Commander Peters, I bought blankets that I can give veterans that are in wheelchairs from the Department of Pennsylvania Veterans of Foreign Wars. We went into civilian homes, not just military, 6 homes in Pennsylvania. I did get National Surgeon of the Year my last year as surgeon, so that was a shock, really. I
Quite
didn't
an honor.
expect it.
Yeah, quite an honor.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just think you have an opportunity as a surgeon to do a lot of things, especially in our community, which we should be doing.
You did an incredible amount of traveling to the hospitals, especially you were surgeon,
2
state
years.
surgeon, 2 years during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of hospitals that were closed, but I'll tell you, I can remember the drives to collect clothing and to go to the hospitals and stuff like that. You really defined what that work is, and tell us what kind of drove you to say, hey, you know what? This is what I think should be in this role as surgeon.
Well, when I traveled through the VFW and the hospitals talking to veterans, it's remarkable the stories you hear. I met a prisoner of war in Vietnam. I met a veteran that actually got shot down twice over Germany, once captured as a POW. And when you hear stories like that, it just makes you want to get involved and help because they sacrificed a lot more than I did. So I'm proud to be there when they needed help.
Yeah, for sure. And then to see them go and visit them in the hospitals if they're incapacitated, I think that's what truly is part of the heart and soul of this organization because we have a 123-year mission to
Yeah.
take care of the veterans, their families, widows, and orphans. And really, it's there's many ways to care for veterans, right? That's certainly after they've been, after they've served and maybe they've had a life, a good life, and now they're in some type of long-term care facility, right?
Yeah, it's a little heartbreaking when you go into these centers and you can see water in their eyes because they kind of feel they've been forgotten. They don't have family members visiting. So when veterans come into their homes and meet and greet and shake their hands, and our post gets Christmas parties and we give them gifts. It's remarkable how you feel after you do that, and I hope more veterans do that in post and districts.
Indeed, and that's I think as the VFW continues to evolve and continues to now to say, look, we've got to cater to a different type of veteran. We can't lose sight of who our veterans were in the past. We can't forget them, regardless of when they served or where they served. Not forgetting them for their services and the sacrifice that they've made is important is important to honor our mission. In my
I met one gentleman that served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So he has some great stories, and it's great to just sit down and talk to them, and they enjoy that. So we got to get out there and just sit and talk to them, and that's almost like giving them a gift, so they feel they're not forgotten.
Without a doubt. Switching to the work, the incredible work, Bill, you did, and when I say that, I'm sincere. You did a remarkable job in the Veterans Court. I know that you were a big advocate for a Veterans Court in Pennsylvania. I'll ask you to explain to our listeners what Veterans Court is, but you did an incredible job of getting other counties to expand on, to implement a Veterans Court. Explain a little bit about what it is and what was your, what was the drive or what was the passion that came out as you looked across the state and say, you know what, veterans are not being represented, or even more important, they're not being considered for perhaps their disabilities that may have contributed to entering the criminal justice system.
Yeah, many of them, they turn to alcohol or drugs, and of course they make mistakes while they do that, but they shouldn't spend years being punished for that, and that's where we should come in and help them through the courts. And there's many great judges out there that really helped, and district attorneys that wanted to work with us. So you're more like a mentor, and they can call you at any time. And I never got calls at 2 a.m, but I did get calls in the day or the evening when they were thinking they were going to relapse, and you kind of help them not to go in that direction. And that's what you're there for, support, and getting support from a veteran is important.
I remember you telling a story, or you speaking at the last year's convention, VFW convention, about a veteran that you had helped stay out of jail and then get to the VA. And I thought that was the incredible work that is really the heart and soul of what the Veterans Court program is, right? Trying to get veterans trying to give them an alternative than the regular criminal justice system. So, honoring them for their service and taking into consideration that their service may have contributed to the situation they're in.
Yeah, he made a mistake. He was alcohol again, started a fire. But we got him instead of incarcerated, he ended up going to Butler for mental health treatment. So, and he's doing well today. So that was a big part of, that's a good feeling in me when that happened.
Without a doubt, especially keeping him out of incarceration and things like that could only exacerbate or fuel, the issues that led to him or her, because there's a fair number of female veterans that are in that situation too.
Yeah, and if they end up being incarcerated, the recidivism is a good possibility for them to do something after they get out of jail. So trying to prevent that is important.
Well, absolutely. Can advocate for that, for enough to be a mentor and things like that. Great work you did there. So a little birdie told me that you are perhaps looking to enter the leadership of the state veterans of foreign wars. And I know you have been campaigning for the past year. You came out to my district, the District 8, spoke with us. I know you've been traveling the state. What's your experience been like as you seek this office?
Again, when I sat down in post and districts and talked to veterans, I heard their complaints, I heard their concerns, and I won't forget them as I move up the ladder. But again, going back, I've been asked, you're going to sacrifice your time? And I said, I'm not sacrificing my time. I'm helping people that really sacrificed and their families. I know some Gold Star parents, they sacrificed. Like I say, a gentleman in Vietnam was a prisoner of war, and the World War II member that shot down twice over Germany, and some other great stories. Vietnam, I think they called them rats. They went down in the holes with a knife in one hand and a 9mm in the other. When you hear stories like that, that's sacrifice. Me traveling around the country and helping veterans, that's a privilege. It's not a sacrifice. So I look forward to doing that.
That's a great outlook, Bill. And since I've known you in the few years that I've known you to be a servant leader, really, and look to serve others first, right? And I very much subscribe to that same theory. I know that you're assembling a great team of people. You're starting to, in the anticipation that you're elected to this office. I know you're assembling a wonderful team of people. What would be your primary goal? What do you think is your primary mission, other than serving veterans? What would you like to see happen that you say, you know what, we're moving in the right direction and we're having success in the Department of Pennsylvania?
I would like to start seeing a mix. There's a lot of great younger veterans out there, and many of them I don't see coming to a convention. I would like to transfer from us older vets to the younger veterans and get them involved in our VFW. Because as I travel the state, they have great ideas. They're willing to work. And if we bring them here, I think we'll start that transition to Iraqi and enduring freedom veterans.
Yeah, that's been important. I think the last several commanders have department commanders have said that's the transition to the younger veterans, right? And then the younger veterans say, well, you've got to have something for me to go to. You got to have something for my family, right? Many of them don't enjoy the clubhouse or the home association or the canteen and stuff like that. What do you say to those veterans that say, you know what? If a canteen and a clubhouse is not your thing, there are posts that don't have clubs or canteens, but even the ones that they do, they're involved in community service and other veteran service activities. What would you say to those younger veterans that are teetering on, do I join, do I not join?
Well, I think if we come up with programs that they're interested in, one of my goals is we have a veteran, I think he's in District 16, who has a bachelor's degree in mental health.
It's Montgomery County.
Yeah, I think to get a program established in the VFW, because a lot of times we're the first person to see someone that might be suffering. So how do we handle that? And ignoring them is not the answer. We need a program set up where post and districts are aware of what to look for and what to do when you see it. I'll give you my experience. I've said this before, is sitting at a post, and that gentleman that served in 3 wars knew I was having a bad day, and he came over and put his arm around me, and he told me, Bill, he said, if is everything okay? And I really didn't say much. He said, that's what the VFW is here for, to help you. And I think we need to get back to that kind of thing.
Yeah, well said. Well said. It's not all wounds are visible, and not all wounds are healed by a drink.
Right.
Right. It's right. It's the care. It's the personal care and camaraderie that you have for those veterans that begins to heal wounds. Especially if the veteran knows that they have a safe place to go or someone to talk to.
It's someone they can talk to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're the first line of defense, I think.
100%.
When they're sitting there and you can tell, or there's water in their eyes, just ask them what's wrong.
You're 100% correct. Well, Bill, we're at the 2023 State Convention. Today you were nominated for the high office of Junior Vice Commander. It's an exciting time. The nominations will stay open, and then tomorrow's the big day. Tomorrow's the election.
I'll kind of be glad when it's over.
Yeah. Everybody had all the candidates say that. Even the commanders say that as well.
Yep.
Bill Rowland, ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful human being, fantastic veteran, just an all-around great guy. Going for the, hopefully will be elected to the office of Junior Vice Commander of the Department of Pennsylvania. Bill, you're going to make a great commander, and really appreciate the leadership and all you've done. Thank you for your service, brother.
I appreciate it. And anybody out there that needs assistance, please reach out. I'll give cards. I'll mail them to all the districts and any post I can. But don't hesitate to reach out. I may not have all the answers, but I'll go find them for you.
And he
Thank you very
means it too. We're going to put Bill's information in the show notes, in the bottom of the show notes. Feel free to reach out for him, especially if you're in Allegheny County. So, Bill Rowland, ladies and gentlemen, here on Pennsylvania Veterans Forward.